All right. We've made it back to these are a few of my favorite things type of text. Um, Really hard to narrow down like a favorite section of the Bible or text. But if you want to pick out, put a top 10 story list out there, and this one's going to be be close. It's going to be close. So you should click like right now before we even get started because it's worth liking. Um, how far will we get today? That's a good question. I am willing to take all week to get through the next 10 verses. 2 verses a day sounds plenty to me. So let's just see how it all goes. Good morning, everyone. Christina, Susan, Arla, Irma, all y'all. Good to see you guys. So let's see here. Maybe if I back up just a tiny bit, or actually, yeah, I guess we read up to verse 23. I thought we read up to verse 21. It says, "And he arose that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed over the ford Jabbok. He took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over what he had." Now, the Jabbok, it is a river, and it flows from east to west, and it pours into the Jordan River. And so everything's reversed. It's flipped on. But I guess it'd be perfect that if it's reversed, because then there's the Jordan River. Over here is, everything east of the Jordan, right? Modern day Jordan and whatnot. And so he was probably walking south along the Jordan River or near the Jordan River. And they get to the Jabbok where, 2 rivers go like this and you're trying to go that way. So he sends his everything else ahead. Now, the Jabbok, it literally means emptying, the emptying out. And I think it's one of those rivers where, maybe it got named for this event that Jacob was having an emptying out. God was taking Jacob to a place where he literally sent all of his wealth and goods ahead to Esau, assuming they could get attacked and taken and he'd lose it all. Then he's setting his wives and kids ahead. So now he's all by himself. And there's this emptying process that's taking place. God is taking every distraction, every idol, every other thing that Jacob could ever want or seek after or anything, and he's taking it all away, and he's sending it over the river. And so it says in verse 24, "Then Jacob was left alone." Now, let me read to you a little blurb that I didn't even read ahead, but if I printed it and I pasted it in my Bible, it must be good. C.H. Mackintosh. To be left alone with God is the only true way of arriving at a just knowledge of ourselves and our ways. We can never trust the true estimate of nature and all its acting until we have weighed them in balance of the sanctuary, and there we ascertain their real worth. No matter what we may think about ourselves, nor yet what man may think about us, the great question is, what does God think about us? And the answer to this question can only be heard when we are left alone, away from the world, away from self, away from all the thoughts, reasonings, imaginations, and emotions of mere nature, and alone with God. Thus and thus alone can we get a correct judgment about ourselves. And so this is what God is trying to do to Jacob right here. He's taken him to the Jabbok, the ford, where you have to cross over. And he's taking him to a place where he wants to empty him before he crosses over. And I think right there was all we needed this morning, because that's something to recognize as a normal and as a common. And it's sadly too uncommon for many Christians. But what I have found is, imagine your Christian faith is somewhat like entering into a room. And in that room are many doors. Imagine a room and there's, 20 doors in a big circular room, right? There's just doors all around. And there's a final door, but you can't go through that door until all the other doors have been opened. And inside each of those doors is something to be learned, something to be experienced, something to be sacrificed. Each door you open, and there's a nugget there where you learn a deeper truth about God you never knew before. And then you open another door, and it's now something to experience, an experience with God that you've never had. And then finally, there are many doors where there's a sacrifice. Perhaps you open the door, and inside is just a simple command. You need to leave this behind in this little room and shut the door, and you don't ever get to go back. And there's an emptying that takes place. Along with the emptying comes the experiences, comes the truths you've learned. And finally, after you've gone through all those doors, and I mean, who knows how long this process takes in a Christian's life? All these experiences, all this knowledge gained, and all this sacrifice made. And then finally, you open the final door. And when you open that door and you walk through the narrow tunnel or narrow hallway, you open a door at the end of the hallway and you step into a room, a circular room with many doors. Quite often, that's how I have found my faith to be. That God wants to do all this work in me. He wants to work me through all these things and grow me. And then all of a sudden, he takes me to a new place. And there's something that happens in that experience, that taking to a new place. It is like a new revelation. Perhaps in this new location, you had to ascend some stairs, and you can still look back and you can see that first room. And that first room was a long season of your life, and you felt like, man, I thought that room was everything. I thought all those doors, once I got through those doors, I'd be done. But one day, to the mature, dedicated believer, they look down from the room they're in and they see 10 rooms, 20 rooms before. And this long path of learning and experience and emptying and sacrifice. So God takes Jacob to the river Jabbok, the river of emptying. He gets Jacob alone, all of his wealth and fortune gone on ahead. All of his wives, his children, his family, the things he loves most have gone on ahead. And he gets Jacob alone, because that is where he can spend time with Jacob. Now, we're going to find Jacob by the end of our chapter transformed radically and forevermore. Now, we read a couple chapters ago, Jacob at Bethel. Jacob's not getting saved. He's been saved. He's already experienced the Lord. He saw the Lord and the angels ascending and descending. You see, God takes believers and he grows them through these experiences and new revelations. And so know that, getting saved isn't the end of the story. That's the beginning of the story. You don't think a child has arrived at their destination when they're born, and how much more when a Christian is born again, right? That's just the beginning. And so perhaps you're in a season of learning, and God's taking you through those doors where you're opening up and new things you never knew are being taught to you and revealed to you. Perhaps it's a time of experience where God is just allowing you to experience his goodness and his love and his presence in your life. And perhaps it's a season of emptying, where God has made it very clear to you there are things he wants emptied out of your life. And that last door that leads to the room with all the more doors, it can't be opened until those things are emptied out. That's kind of the idea, is that God says, hey, I've taken you this far and I want to go further, but there's a process that's taking place here. Sometimes, again, mountaintop experiences. When you get to the height of a mountain, it lets you, one, go back and see the valley and everywhere you've been, but sometimes it gives you a view of greater mountains yet to come. I don't think God's ever sold a Christian short. I don't think any Christian has ever arrived. And yet the ones that we see and that we admire, because they've done such amazing things for the Christian life, and they've held fast and finished faithfully, even they would tell us a story about the mountaintops that they saw glimpses of, but they in themselves never reached. But they're available to us all. So, if you're in a season of emptying right now, embrace it. Let God do what he wants to do. If God's trying to get you alone, let him get you alone. Don't fight it. Embrace it. And watch and see what God will do. This is a good chapter. Good 10 verses. You all be blessed. And we'll find out what happens to Jacob tomorrow. I'm just sitting here now. I put a shout out on Facebook if anyone knew anyone getting rid of Bible books. I'm always on top of that. Commentary specifically, I'm just throwing that out there. Estate sales, a pastor who's resigning or getting a promotion, one of those promotions where they get up to go to the big guy, to the executive level. You know, I always like to add books because I'll tell you what, I was so blessed. This is just now I'm just rambling now, so you can leave if you don't want to hear the rambling. But I was doing some study about Christmas, and it was cool because I was listening to someone and they recommended, like, this is one of the books you need. And I'm looking on my bookshelf. It's like, I just got that book from a pastor who got promoted, and I was given the books, and it's like, it's a book from 1881. I just happen to have this book on here. I was like, yes. And I was excited. So anyway, so I have dreams of a large library only because, man, there's so much good stuff on book that you can't find online, and you're definitely never going to find it on YouTube. And so it's just something that old paper can't be replaced by until Google and Gutenberg and all those projects online get every single book scanned. But anyway, so keep your eyes and ears open. Love you guys. Oh, sad, but if a church ever closes down, like an old church, sometimes they have libraries. Like I said, I don't mind buying books at a good price either. But I gotta sort my books. Anyone wanna sort the stack of books with me? This is my stack I'm trying to filter through today. I'm gonna take pictures of it and send it to some friends so they can help me pick out the good ones, because there's so many I don't know who they are, and the other ones we'll figure out what to do with them. So, love you guys. Have a great day. Hasta mañana.